Hello, I'm Wendy Wilson, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Realizing Potential. Today, I have with me someone, we're still virtual, I was about to say in the studio, but she is just such a delightful person and full of energy. And what she has demonstrated just in the brief time that we've known each other is that she is focused on going after everything that is in her sight line. And so I could go on about her, but I want you to learn a little bit more about Miss Alysia Cutting. Alysia Cutting.
Alysia, it's such a pleasure to be here with you.
Okay,
Virtually, just
you.
fine.
Thank you. I think I'm love the spelling of your name, and so I'm focused on that. But thank you, Alysia Cutting, for joining me today.
Thanks for the opportunity.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, your background. You are not a native Albanian, but you have immersed yourself in this community. And that's what I love. So you now call it home, but tell our viewers where you're from, a little bit about your educational background, and why you decided to plant roots here.
Sure thing, Wendy. And thank you again for this opportunity. I am a native of Western Massachusetts. Now, I say that because as soon as I say Massachusetts, oh, Boston. But essentially, that's like someone from Albany saying that they live in Columbus. It's just not the same. Other part of the state, or Atlanta, other part of the state. So yes, Western Massachusetts, home of birthplace of Basketball Hall of Fame, Dr. Seuss, Ruth Carter, and many others. And my educational backgrounds, I did major in mechanical engineering at Tuskegee University, where I graduated, very, very proud alumni. And I love to do many, many things. I joke around, I wear many hats, even over this hair, including the arts, sing, dance, act, model, write. And as far as my non-creative creative endeavors, has included radio for over 25 years now, some television, other areas of media, mass communications, marketing, and really just music. I love many things. And that's kind of a quick summary.
Yeah, that's great. Alysia, I don't want to miss the opportunity to speak to our students. And so all that you said that you do and that you are excited about and you make sure that you're, entrenched in. We have those disciplines here at Albany State. So we have the music, we have the theater, we have mass communications, all of those things. Would you share with our students, because we certainly want to always impart upon them that there are just some core and fundamental skills that you need that are transferable to any discipline, any endeavor, and why it is important for you to hone and develop those skills. So if you could share what, in your opinion, what are those skills and how they have contributed to your success in all of those different genres and areas?
Absolutely. I would say fundamentally, learning as much as you can, as often as you can, from every interaction, every opportunity. That's number one. Just learn, be a lifelong learner. That's not just a catchphrase. There's always something to learn about something. And the minute you think you know everything about a subject content, I can guarantee you that you're not the smartest person in the room. I do come from an educational background. I neglected to add that I actually was a middle and high school math and science teacher, and then I taught media. So these type of things, like learning as much as you can, I imparted to my students in every area that I taught. Also, the power of networking. So please don't just look at, oh, well, I have to go to a networking event to successfully network. No, you're networking every time you have an interaction with another human being, and never to look at a person and say, well, they don't have a particular degree or a particular job level that I shouldn't bother to network with them, because you never know who people know. And you never want to discount an opportunity to not only learn something, but to potentially share something as well. And finally, something that I hashtag always a teacher, because even though I'm no longer in the classroom, I am often speaking to groups of students, middle, high school, college, and I share this with everyone. Listen well, okay. Several years ago when I was coming up, there was no such thing as a social media manager, let alone there wasn't social media, let alone in some markets getting 6-7 figures managing social media content. So I say this to say this: learn as much as you can and don't be held to, I must get this particular degree. Think longer, think career opportunities, think revenue streams. I guarantee you that 20 years ago, there was no Airbnb or VRBO. Someone had to come up with an idea to say, let me match people who have spaces with an opportunity to maximize income and merge the two. There was no rideshare. There were no other things that people take for granted now. But someone had to say, I have an idea. I'm going to put my creative together with the technical and maximize on an opportunity. So as we often were told when we were younger, oh, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be a da 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 da. I guarantee you there are so many opportunities that have yet to be created that are waiting for you to create them. So create them.
I love that approach. You reminded me of a conversation I had years ago, and it was the author of, interviewed him on this show, and he's the author of The Godfather 2. And he had a similar position or thought, and he said, I don't encourage people to have a plan B. And yeah, just stick with your plan A, and that it will manifest in different areas. But whatever it is that you're passionate about, go after that, and it may evolve. But when you approach something with, okay, this is my plan B, and this is plan A, and this is my plan B, you're not really fully committed to that. And so your statement reminded me of that, you know, there, excuse me, there are some core pieces, or there's some elements to us, and they are multifaceted, and apply those to whatever your heart desires may be. And again, they will change. They will change from time to time.
And I have to absolutely unequivocally co-sign on that, because I realize now when people ask me, what do I do? Honestly, it's taken a long time for me to kind of clarify that, even for myself. And I realized after all these years, I get paid to talk and teach. That's it. So I've always, I was that child who always had something to say about everything. Go figure. Yeah. And I was always involving myself into conversations, not in a, obnoxious kind of way, but I always was like seeking insight and communication and learning. And I found myself just writing, talking. I got involved in radio, even in high school, during a teen talk show. I found myself writing as a 15, 16-year-old for some of the local community newspapers, because I always had something to say about everything. And I realized that even though my degree was engineering, the power of networking put me in a position that when I approached the school system, they said, well, you have an engineering degree. Of course you can teach 9th grade math or 9th grade science. So again, that networking pulled me into a brand new situation. But I realized throughout all of my multifaceted things that I do, it really is about communication. And marketing and communication.
Yeah, that's
my passion.
Yeah, but what I love that, in addition to it being your passion, being an effective communicator will lend to the success of whatever profession, discipline that you pursue. So to be proficient, developing into a mastery of that is always important, and that's an evolving process. And
definitely evolving.
Always be willing to learn and to further develop yourself.
And I would like to add on to that as well, because when you were asking me about what to bring up to students, the ability, to communicate clearly and effectively, not to be afraid to knock on a door and ask for assistance, the ability to articulate what your desires are. And this is coming from someone, this is part of my testimony. I was very shy, even though I was a performer as a child, been on stages since I was 4 years old, and I'm not 4 anymore. Even though I was very, very shy, even though through the 3rd grade and beyond, I had a speech impediment where it was like rabbit on the roof was actually, for me, wabbit on the woof. And on top of that, I had, and still sometimes have, a stutter. And so the fact that I'm able to, people actually ask me to speak is just an amazing part of my testimony. But I say all that to say this: there cannot be any obstacles for you to walk in your purpose. And learning how to successfully communicate is a foundational element of that. Now, we can be very professional in our speak. We can be very articulate, and although I hate that word, but it makes sense. We can be very articulate. That doesn't change the fact that when we're in familiar situations, we're having a good time. Girl, please, we can go all there, but be able to code switch in a minute, speak to the groups that we're speaking to, how we need to be speaking, but then be able to be very articulate and professional with what we're trying to do.
Yes.
So there's nothing that takes away from who I am, Alysia, when I'm, presenting something to a bank president. There is nothing that's not Alysia about that. But the same Alysia could be, hanging out with the girls, be like, da, 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 da.
Right. Yeah. I love you. Thank you for sharing your background and your experience and being vulnerable. You went straight I went straight to James Earl Jones. I don't know if you were familiar with this story. And so that he stuttered, there was a speech impediment, and oh my gosh. And so all that we know is this eloquent and
booming voice.
Yes, actor. So again, what you just said, and as I shared earlier with the other author, and his name escapes me, is that you just, whatever it is, be committed to your passion, and that commitment means putting in the work in terms of
gotta put the work in.
You got to put it in. And then it will eventually come to fruition, whatever it is that you seek and that you desire. Yeah. I don't want to miss another opportunity. I stay very concerned, as and you spoke of this earlier, with the whole social media component with our students that frontal lobe has not fully developed. Yes. And I told somebody that I was told that, they keep pushing it back in terms of, I didn't develop until 25 or 27. And I'm like, no, that can't be true. But it is. And so they don't make always the best decisions, no fault of their own. But again, there are consequences associated with that decision. So, having to explain and remind that to them. I would like for you to speak to our students, our viewing audience. How do you protect your image? Because you know that you can do many great things, and that in your particular case, they oftentimes occur with an audience, either listening or viewing you. But again, there is that part of you that, in terms of that engagement, it occurs on social media platforms. And once that happens, I used to tell that to their adults now, my kids, oh, Mom, I deleted that. And I'm like, yeah, but I took a screenshot of it. So who else did that is capturing that information, and then will use that or attempt to use that against you. So share with the viewers why it is important to maintain your image in that space and making those right decisions and the steps that you take to ensure that.
Basically, okay, let me answer this two ways. First of all, you are your own brand. You are your brand.
Yes.
And what you put out there on a consistent basis will represent and will speak for you when you are not even in the room. And when it comes to social media, on the business side of it, you are the product. So I just want to make that clear too, so that when you are engaging in certain ways and you are doing certain things, you are signaling to the to advertisers, you are signaling to the whole system of the finances behind the free product known as social media. So that's I had to put that one in there, because we think because it's free, there's no impact, but there really is.
Sure.
But to answer your question, when you're putting content out there, and I hate to say it like that, but it really kind of is, you do have to be very assured on what you're cultivating. And if you want to be known, let me take this like this. They say dress for the part that you want. As an actor, if I'm doing an audition, and most of them are self-takes now, and I'm looking for the role of an attorney, I'm not going to show up and do my self-tape with a t-shirt on.
Sure.
I'm not necessarily going to have to carry a briefcase, but I need to look the part
Yes.
for the part that I'm trying to secure. If I'm looking for the part of another type of character, I need to dress the part during the audition. Social media is dressing the part. You are ensuring a future for yourself in whatever capacity. Yes, I can go back. Facebook will remind me on my Facebook memories of what I put out 10, 12, 13 years ago, actually now. They will do the same for you when you are putting out content. Be very, very careful. And I know we hear this all the time, but you can't backtrack it. Can't backtrack it. It's stored somewhere. Sure. So understand that you are your brand. And if you are trying to secure your adulthood, your passion in the future, you got to think about where you are right now. And finally, people say, well, what would you tell your 12-year-old self? I sometimes see people write, okay, well, write a letter to your 10-year-old self. What would you tell your 15-year-old? Well, think about that now. Yeah. Would your adult self be interested in looking at, some of the content that could be potentially detrimental, especially when it comes down to it's impossible. This is what I did tell my students also, job, career, future potential opportunities, it's all social media. They're going to go back and look at it. That's just a given. They're going to go back, not just, I just put this out here 2 years ago. No, they're going to go back and do searches.
Oh,
and
well, I'm stuttering because you're spot on with that. I have a dear friend, lives in Maryland. She works for, she's an executive with an insurance company, and they hire individuals interns, and they befriend. And so, Alyssa's, one of our clients, but, she's claiming that she's having all these ailments. Wendy, you befriend her on social media, and then we watch what she posts. And so she said she had back issues, but we see her on jet skis or
she's jumping on airplanes.
Yeah, there you go. So they've captured that information, and again, for the purpose of monitoring, just to see if you were actually truthful. And then if you were not, we're going to use that as evidence against you. So it's a blessing and a curse to social media.
I was going to say,
so always be mindful of that. And we're constantly sharing that and with our students. And this is just not at Albany State University.
Of course not.
Yeah, systems all across the country are faced with that, particularly just with children. Because I thought about it and I said, we're dealing with students who all they've known is a cell phone. They came into this world with that. And to, try to say, let me tell you what it was like before and what we did to navigate these, it goes right over their head. So you need to meet them where they are and get them to understand the possible, the consequences they're going to be good or bad, but
they can be good. They absolutely can be good because if you are consistent, and again, I can be very, very transparent when it comes to my social media. I have, I've shared situations because for the overall picture of what my end goal is to bring forth a person who I really, really am, artistic, creative, inspirational, but transparent, and say life has not always been a crystal stair.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, before we get ready to wrap up, there are two things I want to do. Thank you for, first of all, thank you for reaching out. Our connection occurred through social media. And
it could be a good thing.
Absolutely. It has been an absolutely great thing because once you and I had a really great initial conversation, that back to that network piece, I was able in that 30, 40 minutes to say, she needs to meet Connie Williams. She needs to meet, Dr. Elizabeth Delancey, she needs to meet the CEO of this organization. And then, so from that, very rich and engaging engagements are now on the horizon as a result of you just saying, hey, I want to talk to you about,
And watch this. Even if there was no connection made other than our opportunity, even if you had not said, oh, you need to meet so-and-so, so-and-so, or so-and-so, I still am glad that I did that and would encourage other people that even if you reach out to network and you don't get a list of, oh, you need to meet so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so, don't discount the opportunity to network, because just because something does not transpire or click at that very moment doesn't mean that that's not a future situation or a future connection of a connection. Absolutely. And it's not just about, oh, what can I get out of it? But it's about enriching your life by growing connections with other human beings.
I love it. I love it. That is a perfect note to end on. But we're going to briefly, before we end on that note, I got to ask, you have the opportunity to invite 3 individuals to your home for dinner. They can have a national presence, an international presence. Who would you invite that our viewers may be familiar with? And what would you serve for dinner?
Who's serving for dinner? Okay. Okay, real quick, 3 people. Do they have to be still alive?
No, they don't.
Oh, okay. Okay. Definitely Dr. Maya Angelou.
Okay.
Because I feel so much connection with her on multiple levels. One, I'm going to say out the box and say Jesus. And I'm not saying Jesus from a religious standpoint, but just Jesus, the person who dealt with a lot of people, and the way Jesus, the person, interacted with others was just really kind of a role model for me. Number 3, okay, Debbie Allen.
Okay.
Debbie Allen, because she's my muse.
Yeah.
I don't know his singer, but dancing, acting, producing, putting out content. I mean, from the TV shows that I've created, man, I love her and she's still dancing. So she's my muse.
Triple threat.
For dinner? What a mercy. I just right now have no idea. I just had like a whole bunch of watermelon. I'm feeling the watermelon vibe right now, but what would I serve for dinner? I like the cultural hodgepodge. I love cultures, and I can't necessarily pinpoint something right now, but rice is always the staple culturally.
Okay. Yes.
Some kind of peas or something, rice and peas. And you got me on that one. I'm not sure.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm sure you would be with that. Those individuals that you've invited, you would be full just on their presence and the conversation alone. So
I'd be fangirl.
I'm not really even hungry anymore because you fed me such a rich.
I'd be in fangirl mode forever.
There you go. Well, it was a pleasure having you on the show, Miss Alysia Cutting. I look forward to working with you in some capacity. And again, those individuals that I mentioned earlier, I know they mentioned, thank you for making this connection. We're already having some conversations about what we're going to do next. And so I look forward to you being a staple, a greater staple in this community, certainly the Albany State University community. Come back anytime you like. We didn't even get a chance to really talk about your business. So that's going to be part of this.
There we go.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Wendy. And thank you all for all of your listeners. And thank you for supporting Wendy and for supporting Albany State TV and radio.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Viewers, thank you for this edition of Realizing Potential. I'm Wendy Wilson, and I look forward to seeing you next time.